Robert Craig, just an old man reading from his Bible. And this is the Bible. I'm the old man, and this is the Bible right here. King James. That's the only one I read because it's the one that is kind of I guess it's kind of ingrained in my brain. If I listen to any other version, then I find myself doing mental offsets and calculations and thinking, trying to translate it in my mind back to King James, because when it comes to scripture, that's the kind of lingo that I think in and speak in my mind. We've been looking at that timeline of the bloodline that goes down from the time the Redeemer was promised until the incarnation of the Redeemer in Jesus Christ. And the Redeemer was a solidly held concept in the ancient mind. I want to kind of get, while we're still on the timeline here, I want to get a kind of an overview of the timeline and kind of bring out what the concept of the hope of the resurrection in the latter day would be. And let's see, let me see if I can find Job here. Yeah, Job is right before the book of Psalms. Now, you know the story of Job. I think most people are familiar with it. He was tested very severely, and everything he had was taken away from him to see whether or not he would break faith with the Lord. And here he's at the depth of his despair in chapter 19, and he's been kind of having things out with his comforters, his three friends who came to tell him how guilty he was, and he just needed to fess up and confess his sin before the Lord. They didn't have any understanding of what was going on, really. And Job says in chapter 19 and verse 23, "Oh, that my words were now written, oh, that they were printed in a book, that they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth." Now see, that was the difference in the Lord and the heathen gods. God is the God that liveth. They're just the craft of men's hands, and there are devils behind them. And that's why we need to stay away at the giving of the Ten Commandments in Exodus chapter 20 in God's own voice. He made a point of saying twice to avoid idolatry. And the same thing in Psalm 81. Idolatry was reiterated there because it is there's a hazard to idolatry. It does very great harm to those that practice it. But he says that I know my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand when? At the latter day. This is sometime in the far future. They don't know when, they just know it's a long time off. In other words, I'll live out my life, I'll die, and I'll rest in the earth. But at the latter day, that's when I know my Redeemer is going to stand on the earth. There's no concept in the minds of those saints in the Old Testament of dying and going to heaven. That is something that never was even a thought in their mind until Paul came on the scene and started teaching things that were revealed to him according to the revelation of the mystery. You know, we looked also the other day at Deuteronomy 29. The secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and our children. It's progressive revelation. At any point, God can say, I told you everything you know about the way this is going. I've told you everything You know, but I haven't told you everything I know. You hear that a lot nowadays. And he says about his death and the decay of his body, he says, and though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. This is his hope of a future resurrection, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not another. Though my reins be consumed within me. You know, I still am not able to figure out why he felt it necessary to mention his renal organs, his kidneys, except that they tell me that in ancient times the kidneys were thought to be the seat of emotions. Maybe that's it, and maybe not. I don't know. Now, skipping ahead to Daniel, this is more on the timeline thing here, but it also speaks to the end times. This is Gabriel speaking to Daniel and giving him prophetic revelation of the end times. And this is towards the end of the captivity in Babylon. And Gabriel says to Daniel, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. A week is a group of 7. And I think you can probably gather from the context here, this is weeks of years, groups of 7 years. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. That's Daniel's people. And who would that be but Israel? And upon thy holy city. And there's some 6 things that he mentions here as God's messenger to Daniel, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. And then he breaks up the 70 weeks. It's not one solid run of time. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem, not the rebuilding of the city, but the command that went forth from the king of Babylon. I believe that would be Cyrus. Shall be, from the command to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Well, you add 7 to 62, and what do you get? You get 69. And according to many chronologists, they count the triumphal entry as the exact date of the completion of 69 weeks. And he says, the streets shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times, but after 62 weeks. Well, which 62 weeks is he talking about? Obviously, the 62 weeks that comes after the 7 weeks. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. So somebody is going to be put to death, but not for their own misconduct, but for that of others. That's what I'm gathering out of this. And the people of the prince that shall come. Now, my understanding of that is the people of whoever this prince is that shall come, and I believe it's the Antichrist, but his people are going to destroy the city and the sanctuary. History tells us that after the captivity in Babylon, this happened during the time of the Roman occupation and conquest. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And this prince referred to again in verse 27 here, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, now that's a week of years we're talking about here, the 70th week. In the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. Now look at the end of, let's look at chapter 12. And he's still being addressed, I think, by Gabriel. And he says in verse 4, But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Think about the technology we have today and how it has grown by quantum leaps since the 50s, since the advent of the first ENIAC computers. And we have handheld calculators, and we have computers in our telephones now that are smarter than some of the biggest supercomputers used to be. But knowledge has increased, that's for sure. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be till to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand, and swear by him that liveth forever, well, of course, that's God, that it shall be for a time, and times, and an half. So we take that, of course, generally it's accepted that a time is a year, times is 2 years, and that half would be 6 months. So it's 3 years and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people. See, we're looking at what's going to happen in the second half when the people of Israel realize the Antichrist for what he is. And the second half of the tribulation is going to be a time of betrayal by the man they trusted and thought was the Messiah, but they found out he was a false Christ. And verse 8, And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. It's going to be a time of winnowing, of separating the wheat from the chaff, of the people of the nation of Israel, chiefly, and possibly of all those on earth too. People are going to choose a side one way or the other. Verse 11, and from the time that, remember we talked about what that prince that would come, what he would do in the middle of the tribulation? From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Now that's the remainder of the tribulation. But things are not quite finished up at the end of the tribulation. The next verse adds 45 days to that 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. That's 45 days. there's going to be people who survive that 70th week who are not going to make it to the end of that 45 days that comes after. I think most likely this refers to the judgment that will take place after the return of Christ. Verse 13, but go thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest. In other words, Daniel's body is going to rest in the earth. And thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of days. Well, obviously, what Daniel is looking forward to is exactly what Job looked forward to so long before that. He's looking for a time when after his death, he will once again stand upon the earth. Daniel is not looking at the possibility of going to heaven. Neither did such a thought ever enter the mind of any Israelite in those days. It was a concept that was not taught. And we're going to pick up right where we left off. And we're going to look at the future hope of Israel some more next time around. But for now, may the Lord bless this reading of His Holy Scripture. And I hope that this will help someone get a better handle on these end time things that will no doubt be coming upon us on the earth relatively soon. And I think the time is far shorter than it ever has been before. But we will have another look at what people looked forward to in that coming time, and a lot of it is going to be in the time of Christ on the earth during His 3 years, and how it was looked on then, and how it really runs along the same kind of pattern of thought. And I appreciate everybody that's watching these videos. I hope you'll continue to do so. Feel free to like and share. I'll see you then.